Morning and welcome to the 28th meeting of the Education Skills Committee in 2019. Can I remind everyone present to turn mobile phones and other devices to silent for the duration of the meeting. Apologies have been received from Beatrice Wishart and from Rona Mackay, and Gil Patterson is expected to substitute for Rona Mackay today. Agenda item 1 is decision on taking business in private, and are the committee content to take agenda item 3 in private today?
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 2 is a public petition to consider PE 1668 on behalf of Anne Glennie on improving literary standards in schools through research-informed reading instruction. Details of the petition, including scrutiny by the Public Petitions Committee, have been set out in paper 1. Can I invite any comments from the members on the possible courses of action which are listed in Annex A of our paper? Mr. Gray?
I thought it's an interesting petition, and it seemed to me that there was a fair bit of evidence that we don't impose a methodology of teaching literacy. That's not the way we organise our schools. But it also seemed to me that there was quite a lot of evidence that in initial teacher education, in some cases, this particular methodology wasn't taught, and so a lot of teachers didn't have it at their disposal. And I thought that was something worth pursuing, although we have expressed concerns about initial teacher education in other aspects, so I'm not sure whether I'm suggesting we pursue it in the context of the petition or whether it's part of maybe a broader look at ITE once we come to look at our work programme.
Okay. Ms Smith?
Could I agree with what Mr Gray has just said? I actually think that what's important in terms of raising attainment and trying to narrow the attainment gap is an evidence-based approach, and that there are different methodologies that can suit in different schools. And I think it is very important that teachers who are being trained in being able to teach literacy know what all the methodologies are. So I would support pursuing this further. And I think Mr Gray makes a good point that that could be in relation to wider issues about initial teacher training. But I think they make a strong point about the need for awareness of what the benefits are of different methodologies.
Dr Allen?
Yeah, on a similar theme, looking at the petition, I have had in constituency capacity similar representations made to me about the same subject, and I suppose without pretending for a minute to have any knowledge of what the answer is to the question has been raised here and elsewhere about whether the mixture of different methods that exist for teaching literacy, or teaching how to identify phonemes and how to spell them. There's a range of those methods available, but I suppose the question that's unanswered is how many of them do you try to teach at the same time to one child? And that's the question that's been put to me, perhaps relating to this petition from a number of other sources. So I would agree that there's a question to be discussed there, and it's probably worth discussing at some stage.
Okay. Mr Johnson?
I just broadly agree with the comments that have been raised so far, and in terms of looking at the options in front of us, I think certainly keeping the petition open would make sense, and either writing to ask for views from stakeholders in particular, but perhaps even a short evidence session to hear from the petitioner and other people with a perspective might be a useful thing for us to do in terms of examining how to take this forward.
So can I suggest that we agree to keep the petition open, and if you can move the discussion about how we take it forward into our later discussion in our work programmes? Members content with that? Thank you very much. That concludes the public session for this week. Next week we'll have 2 panels to give evidence on the Disclosure Scotland Bill, but the committee will now move into private session.